name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Good afternoon or evening or morning or middle of the night, middle of the day, whatever time of the day we greet you from. And welcome to what is a preview review of all things to do with what's been happening this week. So as you got at the top, you got United Cup, Brisbane, Hong Kong, Auckland, Canberra, the whole job lot. And we can already see we've got Jenga in the chat. What do you want to mention about João Fonseca? João Fonseca will certainly pop up as a conversation point. And good to see you in the chat as well, Gene. As you can see, you got me, James, and you got Damien just to my right. I think it's my right as I'm pointing along there. How are you doing, Damien?
All good. We've been doing a lot of these shows this week, kind of to basically save the members of Talking Tennis from having to stay up all night and and watch along some of the matches. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and certainly there's a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, you're not getting too sleep deprived, are you? You're not waking up too early or staying up too late?
Well, my sleeping this week has been I don't know. It's just such a weird roller coaster, especially today, because I had to watch most of the Poland-Kazakhstan clash. And also then at 6 and 7 a.m. my time, there were the free challenger finals. So I can't miss that. So basically, it was a lot of short naps before I eventually got to bed after Aslan Karatsev claimed the last title.
I know Aslan Karatsev doing the bits over in Thailand earlier today. I mean, I do feel for you for the fact that Poland were based so early in the morning in terms of the timings. Certainly as a European country, having it during the right early hours of the morning is not fun. Okay, but that is where we are going to start. So we're going to start with Poland 3. Kazakhstan 0. So it was a clean sweep of the match. Of the tie. It's the word I'm trying to find here. Starting off with, I believe it was Fritz-Hurkacz with a straight sets victory over Alexander Shevchenko. I think I've got that right. And then also we had Igor Swiatek. Shows that even I'm a bit sleepy here, Damien. We had Igor Swiatek. That was a straight sets victory over Elena Rybakina. And then it was also wrapped up in the doubles as well. There was no real point for the doubles to be played, but they play it anyway. And that was a win for Poland as well. So starting off with Hurkacz, Damien, what did you make of his performance? Did you feel as though Shevchenko pushed him, or do you necessarily feel like it was as expected and it went as expected?
I mean, probably his best match of the season so far. It's not saying much, it's only the fourth time he's played, obviously. But after the group stage, I think it was very important for him to start winning and just kind of keep getting the game sort of like, closer to his best. Of course, the challengers, I can kind of understand that, yes, Billy Harris and Alexander Shevchenko aren't Kasper Ruud and Thomas Machac. So in a way, we still don't know all that much coming into this final later. But yeah, I mean, he was perfectly fine. Obviously, used the fact that he is like it's so much easier for him to hold serve than for Shevchenko. I think Shevchenko hit like 0 winners in the opening set. I'm not sure if he hit any in the second. But that was kind of the match, so tough for him generally to produce that sort of offense. And Hurkacz, even if off the baseline, he's also not too offensive most of the time. Of course, just the serve alone is going to mean a lot. He was getting to the net a ton and playing great there. That volley in the last game, for example, I still remember. So yeah, I think it was pretty routine, a little more routine than you would have expected because, well, they've already played 4 times, I think, and 2 of these were really, really tough. Shevchenko's serve is very mediocre. I mean, in many ways, yeah, it's just like super flat. It's actually pretty big pace, but it's tough to get it. The spot serving, the placement, the consistency on it. It's been very hard. He's kind of been serving like this for years now and hasn't really improved.
No, he was certainly somebody who I saw, I think, a couple of years ago, sort of breaking into the top 100, and he was almost touted as certainly a name to watch, maybe to go into the top 30, top 20 of the world. But he just seems to certainly plateaued off. I think I checked his ranking the other day, and he's in the 60s or 70s, or even maybe as low as 80 actually at one stage. It doesn't necessarily feel as though Shevchenko has gone to that next level that we've kind of expected, or certainly what felt like it could have expected.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of just stabilized as a middle of the top 100 player. I mean, last year even worse. He was like at 40% win rate, I think, and that's only really keeping him in because like he didn't have any big runs. I think he was one of the players who benefited from the round by round point distribution changes, where now you get more on the ATP Tour, less on the Challenger circuit. Without that, he would have struggled to keep himself in the top 100. But then again, a few wins here or there, like Fritz, of course, he's beaten before. There was another top 10 player. This event, he's beaten Tsitsipas. So it's not like he can't do it. He's just like so tough to predict. He can lose to anybody. He can beat anybody. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you would hope that this year he's going to at least to be like, I don't know, at least going to be again around 50 or something like that. That's sort of a level that would tell you there is still something to grow there. And he's not just going to be like barely fighting to stay alive in the top 100.
No. And then moving on to the second match, which was a match I think a lot of the tennis world was looking forward to seeing to take place for the first time. One of the, two of the top 5 players in the world battling it out. We had Iga Swiatek, the world number 2, and Elena Rybakina, who is currently the world number 5, if I'm correct, or was it world number 6?
Somewhere like that.
Somewhere like that. It feels, granted, because of the level Rybakina has brought, certainly last year, at points, it feels as though she certainly is one of those top 5 players. And in the end, 7-6, and the second set was 6-4, if I remember correctly, or 6-3. It certainly was a break of serve in that set. Very much, I mean, certainly from the highlights that I spotted, it felt very much as though Iga had a lot of the control of that match. Is that? Do you think that's correct, or do you think there was points in which it was certainly more on Elena's racket?
Before I get to that, Matthew, I think only Zhibek Kulambayeva is like ethnically Kazakh in that group. Of course, you have a lot of Russians, and Nedovyesov is Ukrainian, I think. So yeah, probably only Kulambayeva. But that's, I don't know really if that matters. Anyway, Swiatek Rybakina, yeah, I think was really good. At first, the first 9 games, I actually texted this to somebody, and I was thinking if I should tweet this because I think it's a great comparison. But then I said, no, probably not. But here I'm gonna say it. I just texted somebody that she's playing as if she needs to pee, because she was just like so overeager, and was trying to finish the points early. And I think that maybe it was related to the thigh issue that she has. I don't know. Of course, it wasn't showing up today as much as against Bolter, but it was certainly still there. I mean, she had it bandaged. She also had it like Fisset was doing something with it on the changeovers sometimes. And anyway, at 4-5, there was a big tactical change-up in her play. And she finally kind of started using her athleticism, the spin she can produce to extend the points. And since then, actually, yeah, she was actually on top of many rallies. In fact, she was moving Rybakina a lot more often, which, again, I think to me just comes down to the quality of the ball that she is putting in from her forehand, the shape on the shots, which at first, yeah, she was just like trying to end everything in the first 2 or 3 shots, but not anymore. You can see it on the set point in the opening set. You can see it in many points in that game where she broke. Also the game where she almost broke again for the set. So I think it was mostly just a really good tactical adjustment. And eventually she was able to also take the second set with it. But the tiebreak was a bit crazy too. There were like 8 mini breaks in a row or something like that. But I think mostly we have to look at that 4-5 game. Because 3-5, it was like deuce. Rybakina was 2 points away from the set. But that 4-5 game where she breaks back, I think it was a massive, massive tactical change-up. And exactly what we've been kind of like advocating for years, right? That like she should be using the qualities that she has in terms of like the speed, the athleticism, the footwork, the defense against players like this who are just going to like spam flat shots at her. And she cannot really be like trying to out-hit them. And she wasn't from that point onwards, which is why she beat Rybakina in the end. it's a big win, obviously, to secure the tie, not to have to play the mixed, get a bit more rest for tomorrow, where she's going to face a similarly difficult but a very different player in terms of the matchup.
No, certainly Iga's done fairly well. Certainly the last couple in the knockout rounds, not having to go and then play the doubles by Hubie and her getting it sorted in the singles. Of course, a big talking point was that certainly this is probably the first time that we've seen Goran Ivanovic on the court after the news about Vukov and his "is he back, isn't he back" saga that is currently playing out. Do you potentially think, certainly because of the media backlash, and this was certainly something in which Elena was asked about on a number of occasions in the post-match press conference to do with Vukov and the WTA ban on him being able to be a coach in the official areas. Do you potentially think that could have played on her mind during the match?
Probably not. I mean, I didn't see any of that. I don't think she was serving quite as well as you can expect from her sometimes. When she was playing that mixed clash with Spain, was it, at the beginning of the week? Like her serve was just unplayable. And today, I don't think she really had the serving ability that definitely is her main advantage over Iga generally, the serve and return game. And I don't think either really showed up in that semifinal. But no, I mean, Elena is of course very cool, right? And it just doesn't really show any emotion. And obviously, she also had that Wimbledon win when a lot of people were talking not about her tennis, but about the fact that she's, Russian ethnically and playing for Kazakhstan. So I think that she is very good at just throwing all that away. Of course, we still don't know the very details of the Vukov situation. Personally, I don't want to speculate, especially on such a huge topic. But it doesn't seem like it's impacting her really. And John, I mean, should have won the tiebreak. I know the point you're referring to. 3 points all, I think it was, when Rybakina was up at the point. She plays a pretty weak volley and Iga is able to pass her. But it's still just 4-3 in the breaker. I mean, what does it mean you should have won the tiebreak if it's just 4-3 in the breaker? And obviously Iga didn't win it she won it 7-5. So even if you just decide that butterfly effect is not a thing, it's 6-all and they're still playing.
No, indeed, and as you say, though, it's a very complex situation as well. It's something that Rybakina is in currently with Vukov. All we know at the moment is that the WTA has provisionally suspended him as being as a coach, and they will not be giving him a credential to any WTA events. And Tennis Australia have confirmed that they won't be offering him a coaching credential to the Australian Open taking place in a couple of weeks' time. And we just wait to see how, once the investigation by the WTA has been concluded, to see what they will do in terms of a permanent solution to Vukov. But it very much felt as though in the interviews that came from afterwards was that although it was being touted in the Athletic that Rybakina was tempted to boycott some WTA events to try and get Vukov back, or at least get Vukov to get a good credential. She seems to backtrack slightly from that, and is just going to try and sort and say that she can still work with him outside of the tournament sphere. But we'll have to keep an update to see what updates come from that. Okay, so moving on to the next match. This is what I was able to watch, which is fantastic. I wasn't sound asleep. I was actually awake to be able to catch bits of it, and that was the United States tie against Czechia, and that one went to a similar result as the match in the daytime. So that started off with Swiatek-Gauff quite convincingly, really beating Karolina Muchova. A stat I heard when I was listening was that Muchova still has not won a set off Swiatek-Gauff, which, given the brilliant displays that Muchova can put in, and also the performances she's put in against the likes of Iga Swiatek, Sabalenka, Rybakina, all the top players, seems a bit of a surprising stat that I picked up there. And then the second match was and it was an interesting one, and we'll get to it, was a retirement right at the end of the second set by Thomas Machac against Taylor Fritz, which with that retirement gave USA a tie. Before we go on to the Machac one, what were your thoughts on the Gauff match? Starting off with that one, and Gauff's quite convincing beating of Swiatek, of Muchova's. I know a lot of people were talking about potentially a grip change that she's done or seems to have done over the preseason, which is really helping her.
I mean, that's why she hired Matt Daly. It's like a year too late, to be honest, because I remember when she was trying to hire somebody, and of course Brad Gilbert came along. That was kind of like already the intention, right? I mean, at least it seemed like, when you're hiring a coach and you're Coco Gauff, 2023, the summer of 23, you have to basically look for somebody who has an idea what to do about your forehand. She kind of went the other way, and she got somebody who just told her, your forehand is not a problem. You have everything you need. And it worked for a while. But now, of course, when you're hiring somebody who is like literally responsible for this and like has that whole Grip MD program or whatever, you expect big stuff in that department. And I don't know if we quite saw it yet in like Beijing, Wuhan WTA finals, even if, of course, Coco was already playing very well. She's actually kind of like the informed player on the WTA tour right now since the Asian swing began, maybe followed by Sabalenka. But this time, I mean, yeah, the United Cup, I mean, she's looking fantastic, and it's just so much easier for her to generate spin power of that wing. It's a very different follow through as well. She's like whipping it a lot more. And it seems like, yeah, she's kind of found a cure for many of the issues that she had in the past. So at the moment, yeah, she's right up there. I mean, there's probably like 3, 4, probably maybe even 4 favorites, let's say, for the Australian Open right now. And the ordering of them is like completely up to you. But I wouldn't argue with Gauff being like first or second. In fact, obviously, tomorrow is also going to be a match that's going to play into these considerations. But yeah, I mean, she's looking as good as anybody since the Asian swing, and specifically here too.
No, I tend to agree in terms of what you're saying in terms of tomorrow. And when we go on to the preview, we'll certainly go on to it in terms of when Gauff plays Swiatek, a match, it's certainly going to give us a very good idea. Certainly, as Gauff and Swiatek have certainly been two players that have almost impressed the most, it feels like, in the build-up events that we've had, certainly the top WTA players. In terms of potential changes that we've seen, more aggression leading to more convincing displays. But certainly, as you were saying, it was just a very dominant performance from Coco Gauff throughout that match with Mukova, and the rewards have been reaped. Gauff has won every single match in the United Cup this year so far, which has really been the stalwart, almost like the flag bearer or the cornerstone of the entire Team USA. And it's proving that the decision she made not to go to Auckland, like she has done the last couple of years, where she's won the title each year, seems to have bared fruit almost at this stage. Then moving on to what is the most bizarrest end, or feels like, I was saying the most bizarrest, one of the most bizarrest ends we've currently had to this year when it comes to a match. So just to give context, Thomas Machac had won the first set 7-6. He was a break down in the first set, but was able to get the break back just at the end before Taylor Fritz. I think Taylor Fritz was serving for the set, if I remember correctly. Probably not, but was but certainly near the end of the first set, and then was able to take the set in a tiebreaker. And then he managed to get himself a break up for a large chunk of the second set. Okay, during a lot of his changeovers, he was getting his leg rubbed quite a lot of the time, or his thigh rubbed by some sort of physio or a member of his team. And then all of a sudden, when it got to 5-2, he wasn't able to see. He got a couple of match point chances on Taylor's serve, wasn't able to see it out. He then got broken serving for the match, and then it all escalated from there. Really, every single changeover, he was shouting at his team, smashing his racket, or he's throwing his racket around. Ended up doing a lot of smacking his bag, nearly thrown some water over, absolutely losing it. And then all of a sudden, Taylor holds, Taylor breaks, another meltdown at the change of ends, and then first point of Taylor serving for the second set. He then just takes his hat off, walks to the net, and says, "That's it, I'm over." What did you make of that entire situation?
I mean, the only thing that makes it a little iffy is that it's a team competition, because generally on the tour, you're only playing for yourself. And if you're doing that, I mean, you're only hurting yourself. So if that happens, I don't really care. But in terms of here, I just wonder, what sort of attitude the rest of the team would have to that. Of course, you don't really want to, injure yourself going into the Australian Open, but Machac is still in the draw in Auckland. He's probably going to play that event. So I don't think it's super serious or anything. And I mean, it's the last game. Like, you haven't even lost that set. You know, maybe just play out the next 2 points and retire after the second set if it's really serious. But, you know, just try to keep going. You're potentially 10 points away from winning the set still, 11. So I think, just try to break Taylor. Maybe if it doesn't work, then call it quits. I don't know. But I mean, we were so close to this tie being, you know, in the deciding doubles and the deciding mixed. But because it's a team competition, it's generally something you don't really see. Like retirements in team competitions, if they happen, they are pretty serious. Of course, Machac was responsible for 2 retirements in the Davis Cup against Alcaraz and then against whoever he came out against and then played just 1 game. However, in that case, that was kind of, you know, he was actually seriously ill against Alcaraz. And then in the second match, it seems like the Czech captain just decided that they're going to do this weird thing where they still put Machac in, even though he can't play, because they hope for a point in the number 2 slot. But anyway, I mean, in this case, he just absolutely killed Czechia's chances to win, seemingly for not that much of a reason. Like, again, just play out at least this 1 game and maybe then call it quits if it's something serious.
I mean, I know it was mentioned about cramping, and that's what he told Taylor at the net, but there wasn't any sort of physical signs that the cramping was affecting his movement, certainly from what we were seeing from the TV angles. So it suggests, certainly to me, as though it was certainly a mild cramp that he was dealing with as best he could. But to me, it reminded me of a bit like a young teenager playing FIFA and they've just gone 3-0 down or whatever reason they were in the lead all the way to the 90th minute, and then all of a sudden their opponent scores 2 goals. He's grabbed the controller and he's chucked it out the window. It was the weirdest form of rage quitting I think I've ever seen on a tennis court. From a player. I know that the conditions in Sydney are really humid and really hot, and we have had players that have cramped on that court, not just this year, but in years past. Once those matches have got really physical and really intense. But as you say, we've seen these sorts of outbursts from Machac in the past. I remember in the Draper match at the US Open, but when things really weren't going his way, he was really letting rip to his box every single time he was down that end of the court. And it just seems as though we've kind of got seen the part of the reason why, although he has so much talent and so much, so much potential in him, that mentality is probably one of the major reasons why it's taken him until he's around about 28 years of age to actually get as far in the game as he has. If his mind's going to constantly explode when things just don't go in the right direction for him. Do you think that makes any sense, Damien?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, obviously he's had a very good rise the last couple of seasons. Started the season so well as well. But we'll see how much it actually derails him or anything. Against Draper, nothing was working for him from the very first point of the match, which was pretty much the entire Draper run at the US Open. But then, of course, he shows up here at the United Cup and is just playing so well. 2 match points against Taylor. I think both were unreturn serves. But so close to getting Czechia to that deciding mix. Then I can't believe he called it quits before that last game was actually finished in the second set.
No, and I could tell that the team one thing I always found with, and not to dwell on too much, was how his team were trying to deal with the fact of his outbursts. Because a lot of the time they were just staying silent and just letting him burst, and they just sort of just was completely silent, let it get him out the system. But I kind of feel, because we also saw that a captain, whoever sat in the front row, grab a towel and put it over the little swivelly camera that they have on the players, on that sort of players bench. That may have actually given him almost like internal fuel that the way he was feeling was correct, because not only is he feeling it, that annoyance and that frustration, but also his team were, because they would put because you wouldn't have put that towel over that camera unless you really were feeling the pressure in the situation. But that's just me trying to play a little bit of like a psychic almost on that one, or at least trying to see what may have led him to even increase that frustration as he went on. And then, of course, like we had from the day match, they went to the mixed doubles. Of course, took place, even though USA had won the tie, and the USA were able to make it a clean sweep, 3-0. Kudla and Krojcek winning out that match quite comfortably in the end, actually. which then means we have our finalists. And as we say, we've got Poland, who were in the final last year and came really close last year. If it weren't for Hurkacz on a couple of points against Zverev, it probably would have gone to Team Poland last year instead of Team Germany. And then we've got the USA potentially, and I think I tweeted about this as soon as the group stages took place. I said that I couldn't see past the USA Poland final, and hey presto, we have a USA Poland final. So going through match by match, what do we expect to happen? So starting off, we know that the first match of the day is going to be Swiatek-Gauff versus Iga Swiatek. That's going to be I think it's 5:30 local time. I know it's 6:30 in the UK time. How do you think that match will go, David?
Well, I mean, this is kind of the big story here, like whether this rivalry will finally be what people expected it to be like 5 years ago already. So whether we will actually kind of get this rivalry properly going, 11-2 for Iga in the head-to-head. Coco on the last meeting. I think both wins were with Iga like not playing really like, that close to her best. WTA finals included. She was coming off that Asian swing break, which we at the time didn't really know yet what caused it. Then, of course, we found out about the positive doping test and that provisional suspension. But clearly, she was not really in like her best rhythm, timing-wise. The defense of Coco that usually doesn't bother her all that much because it's very tough to beat Iga with like a defense-first performance. We know that pretty much the only players that beat her are really aggressively oriented. And, she's not really ready for Coco in that much, but generally over the course of their matchup, that was different. However, looking at what Gauff is, playing right now, I don't think she's going to be in that mode. I don't think she's going to be like grinding Iga down most of the time. Looks like she will actually also be able to bring some of the firepower in. Certainly won't be a matchup like Swiatek-Rybakina, where Iga has to get that, like extend the points and everything, but maybe. In fact, if Coco's forehand has improved so much, if it can't be rushed as easily, we will see a very different face of that matchup. And that's what I'm excited for. I kind of want to reset for them, It's 11-2, so many big matches that Coco lost to Iga, especially 3 times in a row at the French Open, which, perhaps Coco wins like 2 out of 3 of these editions if Iga wasn't around. And yeah, I just kind of want to reset. I want a fresh start for them and to see a much more competitive rivalry from now on. And it seems like we really might get it. So this is huge. I think it's just as close as Swiatek-Rybakina was.
Yeah, this certainly could be the turning. The hope is that I don't know if it'd be as extreme as the Medvedev-Sinner turning point, but certainly, as you say, it's Coco playing at a much higher level, much more aggressive style of tennis. I've got a feeling she'll do it. I think it'll be 3 sets. I think it could be 3 tight sets, but I could certainly see Swiatek-Gauff getting the win against Swiatek this time around. I know you're Polish, Damien, and you're probably hoping for Iga to sweep the board.
I don't really mind if the team wins or loses. I mean, it's the United Cup, to be honest. I've got zero interest in whether we win or lose. I want to watch it. I want to talk about it, but yeah, I don't mind.
You're not completely wedded to Iga.
I mean, I like her, but yeah, I mean, whether Poland wins the United Cup or not is not really going to be something that decides whether I'm happy tomorrow or sad. It's either way, really. Sometimes I care about the Davis Cup results or the Billie Jean King Cup, to be honest. I think I just find them like, more interesting competitions. But the United Cup, not really. However, sure. I mean, I think it helps me to stay like pretty neutral here and yeah, just unbiased. And my unbiased opinion is that Coco has a really good shot at winning this match. And just like I treated Swiatek-Rybakina as a 50-50, I'm pretty much coming in with a similar mindset here.
Yeah, it's I think we could both see those matches going either way. Do you think? And this will link a lot potentially to Brisbane and Sabalenka, but do you think the winner of this match could be seen as the main challenger to Sabalenka at the AO?
If it's Gauff, for sure. If it's Swiatek, I think it's going to be more like an even playing field. But, well, we have to ask the question whether Elena is indeed, in fact, first, and maybe it's Coco right now. It's possible, Because of the last few years at the Australian Open, I think Iga has a little more to prove in Melbourne than Coco does. But yeah, I mean, all 4 players really: Swiatek, Sabalenka, Rybakina, Gauff. I mean, I think that's where it's at when it comes to favorites for Australia. And this match will kind of decide the order.
You don't put Zheng in there, last year's finalist.
I mean, probably not. She's still kind of like, well, not unable to beat these sort of players, but it's tough matchups for her. The 4 are all pretty tough for her to beat. So, she went to the final and then she had a 6-2, 6-3 loss to Arena, which was not that competitive. I think something like that could be also possible. Well, I mean, that's just not my... I consider myself a patriot, actually, but I don't really see what it brings to me if the Polish team wins or loses. In fact, almost nothing. However, yeah, I mean, I like watching the team. I like analyzing it, but I don't really care. I am controlling.
I think Olga is it Ola? Ola is getting your banishment papers sorted right now.
They might just exile me basically
with the Polish home office.
And Sean is very right, by the way, about me struggling in job interviews. I've only had like 1 or 2 in my life, I guess, but I definitely struggle with all these, like, what are your biggest assets questions or whatever. I don't want to talk about that. I don't really know how to sell myself, I suppose, or don't want to. So yeah, you're very right.
All right. Well, we've got Ola again coming in saying that she thinks that Coco will get a beat down. Well, then moving on to from a beat down to some heavy hitters when it comes to the second match, where we have Taylor Fritz versus Fritz-Hurkacz. How do you see these 2 big servers and also big forehand hitters going? How do you see this match taking place?
Yeah, I mean, this can't be called a 50-50. Taylor has to be a slight favorite given, Hurkacz just returned from that longer injury. And I don't know. It's just, he's had 4 matches already, but the 2 he won was against, of course, Shevchenko and Haris. He should be getting better with every match. We know that Hurkacz, he can keep any encounter close, really, with simply the serve and perhaps some big hitting if the serve sets him up for it. So I don't know. I think it might be a little closer than maybe most people think. I wouldn't say that it's a done deal for Taylor, but I would say that Fritz is the favorite. And because of that, I also think the US is the favorite tomorrow, since this match to me is a slightly more lopsided than Swiatek-Gauff. It would obviously be massive for Hurkacz as well to claim the win. Sort of, let's say Iga wins the opening match and then Hurkacz claims it, or he claims it in the mixed, either way, because of what you mentioned, right? Because of what happened last year and the 2 match points that he had against Zverev, which, basically was why Poland lost the tie, and his performance in the mix was shaky too. So if he is the one who clinches it, that would be massive for him mentally going forward.
No, certainly indeed. It was. I know one of the things that made the United Cup final last year so memorable was the way in which you had, Iga won the first match quite comfortably against Jessica. Against it was at the time that was Kerber, because Kerber kept losing every single match, and then as you say, Zverev was able just about get the second, and it took the entire title down to the mixed doubles, which secretly inside I'm really hoping for, because it I think we could see a situation where potentially Iga could take the first match. Fritz takes the second, and then we go to the mixed. We've got Hurkacz and Iga for Team Poland, Coco Gauff and Taylor Fritz for Team USA going at it. That could be certainly the curtain raiser to the United Cup to the first week if that takes place. I mean, that would add the drama, that would add the energy. The crowds would be so into it. I could see it going past midnight as a local time because of it. But yeah, that's just, for me, from a drama standpoint, I would really like to see them splitting the games and singles matches and it going to the mixed doubles. I don't know what you think to that one.
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I want to. I mean, that's what we kind of watch the United Cup for. These mixed matches are so intense. Of course, you have deciding points. You have the third set as a super tie break. They are super random because no one is playing with each other all year long. I guess it's going to be the singles players coming back. Of course, Poland tried and a Swiatek-Zieliński combination, and it didn't really work. Like, I kind of feel sorry for Janek because he had one poor match and then they sub Hurkacz in. I thought probably Hurkacz was the better choice from the get-go, but then again, of course, you can't really, question Zieliński's doubles ability, and he won 2 slams in mixed. In fact, he's still been playing, not with Iga, but with Faniska, and he played fine in both mixed matches. Of course, they weren't too important, but still. So maybe he's got a case. Let's say Hurkacz is very tired after the match against Fritz, and maybe he still comes back. So that's not obvious he will show up. But either way, I mean, mixed is always a lottery, I think, in this format. Of course, to an extent, but it is kind of like designed to be closer than regular matches. And I would say that's probably what it's going to be. Hurkacz-Świątek over the years have been a very strong combination, but then last year Laura Zygmunt kind of outplays them in the final, just like shows that the doubles pedigree can matter on the court. I don't think Coco Gauff or Taylor Fritz could really do that to them, but certainly it's not like it wouldn't be a close match. So that's what everybody wants to see, I think, just that third match and all the excitement that comes from that.
Matthew just asking a question: do players like Danielle Collins still get money and points if Team USA wins? Danielle won't get any points because she's not playing any matches to be able to pick up those points, but she will pick up an appearance fee and I suspect also a finalist fee as well for being there. I suspect a lot of the reason why she's there this week is because she's getting a big paycheck. more than
she's pretty much the only player, right, who did that, like a star who decided to take that number 2 spot. Everybody else is like running away from the United Cup since they changed the format to that best of 3 rather best of 5. But
best of 5, because
it's good money, obviously. For someone like the Polish team has Faniska and Machac, right, in these number 2 spots. Like for them, it's great money. But that's also why you're not gonna see like Linette or Frank.
Yeah, it's always bizarre because you see every single team where you got, usually the 2 star players, which are the 2 singles players who are usually top 20 players, and then you've got somebody ranked 150 in the world. So it's their number 2 sort of sat behind.
Because even for doubles players, it's not amazing, right? I mean, you're just kind of waiting around to see if you're even needed, and then you also don't get any points. Like it's only for money because obviously there's no mixed doubles ranking. So.
No.
I mean, it's pretty much since that reform in 2024, it's pretty much an event based on 2 players for most countries. And in the case of Poland, that obviously actually increased our chances a ton because in the previous format, our main struggle was the number 2 singles spot on the men's side at least. So that's kind of what's really made Poland like the one of the biggest contenders for this competition.
Yeah, and it's certainly noticeable that a lot of teams aren't, or we haven't had any teams really that have chosen doubles specialists and have them as their number 1 choice in the doubles. As you said, they don't pick up any points there. But similarly, in terms of to have that team dynamic, when you say at the moment, it realistically feels like you've got the 2 star players and then you've got the tag-alongs really. And no offense to Zieliński, that sort of statement. Whereas, you'd think of maybe to make a proper team, you'd have had singles players with singles roles and doubles players with the doubles role that they would then bring into those matches. But it very much feels as though if the doubles match is live, it's the singles players that are going in to play it, not the double specialists. Unless some sort of injury.
I mean, some teams, Italy obviously had one of the strongest mixed teams, but it kind of showed in the quarters, right? You're not guaranteed that you're going to get to the mixed. So having a good mixed team is not as big an advantage. And then also, of course, Australia had a very strong team, probably the second best, but they lost surprisingly to Carla Echeverry. So, but yeah, I mean, most teams just are going to use their singles players. Of course, Poland, a bit of a different case because we don't really know if Zieliński or Hurkacz is the better choice. No one knows, in fact. So at least there's some mystery to it.
Some mystery, yeah. Okay, so we kind of said that we want drama, or we expect drama for the Poland thing. We were saying it's going to go down to the third doubles. It's going to go right down to the 10-point match tiebreaker to decide who's going to pick up that trophy. And there'll be a jubilation, commiserations, the whole job lot. and I will watch as it gets wrapped up in straight sets by one team in the singles instead. Okay, so moving on from the United Cup, so moving on from Sydney, going over to Brisbane. So Brisbane, as everyone will know at this stage, it has the WTA 500 event and it has the ATP 250 event. So the first match I'm going to talk about is the one part of the draw which felt like it held up somewhat, which was the top half, where Sabalenka defeated Mira Andreeva 6-3, 6-2. What did you make of this sort of result and potential performances? Certainly, what I feel is slightly a shaky-ish performance we've seen from Sabalenka in the last couple of matches, but certainly seen a little bit here, but still able to get those key breaks at those key times.
Yeah, there was this like one long game, maybe what was it, like 3-3 in the first, that felt like it really decided the end of the match. But yeah, ever since Arena had that match against Putintseva, and that's a player who like troubles the top seeds very often, and she just handled trouble there very well. Ever since, I was just like, okay, so she's probably going to just respond to everything that people throw her way. That was kind of the case against Buskova, very similar matchup. Andreeva maybe in some ways too. I was hoping for a bit more out of Mira here, but it's still a very solid result for her, of course. Now the question is if the final is as much of a done deal as it seems. It probably is, but to be honest with you, Polina Kudermetova is not someone I've watched a ton. Of course, she had these two back-to-back years, the Seoul quarterfinals or something like that. But this is like the biggest run of her career, definitely. So I'm not really expecting much from that final. But Andreeva against Jabeur still was a very promising performance for me. So I'm not gonna like look at that Sabalenka matchup too much and just think, no, she's not making any progress. But I mean, Arena just looks super strong.
It's very much beating Sabalenka certainly in the major events is going to be the big key to prove that you are a tier 1 player almost at this
stage. She already did, right? But that was
the
stomach bag, so it's a little it's a win with an asterisk
on a clay court which is slightly slow. Yeah,
sure, that's another argument. Yeah.
There is, it was still a huge victory. Getting any victory against a number at the time the number 2 best player in the world is still absolutely momentous, no matter what surface or how well the opponent is anyway. But very much because, as you say, Polina Kudermetova defeated Elena. Again, not an easy player to beat. Elena, she makes players work. You're going to have to play your best tennis to beat her. So you believe? Good result for Kudermetova. She's been having a fairly good type season. She got to the final of the W100 event in Dubai just before Christmas. So very much is a player that is on the up. I think she's knocking on the door of the top 50 in the world now, certainly with this run. If I'm not mistaken, I probably am. But I know that she should be in the world's top 100.
She's definitely higher than her sister right now, which is kind of...
Yeah, she is. I saw that stat somewhere. She's the actual better Kudermetova sister.
And by the way, to John's question, the United Cup, it's pretty tricky to count because it depends on your ranking on the stage. I think for beating Marin Helgo, Iga received 15 points. Then for 400, then for Muchova, I think she would have received 40 points. So that's 55. Who did she play in the quarters? I'm losing it right now.
Who did she play? Oh, Bolter.
Oh, yeah, Katie Bolter, player. Of course. So I think is she in the top 20, Katie, right now?
Top 30. She's
top
24 in the world.
Yeah. So I think it's 55 for Bolter. And then I think for Rybakina, it's 130. So if you count all of that, that would be like 250. However, there is a rule in the WTA that a player who wins 4 out of 5 matches receives a minimum of 325 points. So the answer is that, yes, she's going to receive 325 points if she loses to Coco. But if she beats Coco, there's another rule that a player who wins 5 matches receives 500 points regardless. So basically right now it's going to be either 500 or 325 for her.
So effectively, she's going to get the same points as winning Brisbane, which is pretty good.
That was the case last year too, right? She got 500 points for the United Cup. Even though they lost the final, of course, Poland, but Iga beat everybody.
She won a singles match, so she won all 5 matches, which she's certainly on track to again this year. And Gauff is as well, really. And so we know that, as you say, she's picked up 325 for winning all her singles matches so far with Gauff. She's actually covered the 250 points that she's dropping from at Auckland this week and gained 75 in the process. So still on potentially to doubling her points at this stage, which is the risk you take going into the United Cup, that if you don't perform nearly as well as you did the year prior, there's actually a lot of points that could end up dropping off at an early stage. And this is the last week of tournaments that will decide the rankings and the seeding order for the Australian Open. So it's been quite key. And I think it's also key to note, just to go back to the United Cup, that Hurkacz's win against Shevchenko means that he will be a top 16 seed, because he'll go into the 16th slot at the moment for the Australian Open, meaning he should get a slightly, and I mean slightly, because that 17 to 24 bracket is stacked still anyway, for the good strong talent. He should get a slightly easier third round match than he would have actually have done if he stayed in that 17 to 24 bracket, and he could climb to 15th if he wins tomorrow, because he would overtake Jack Draper, who would then drop to 16th. But that's just it for anyone who's like Nick, or who's doing a really good thing on Twitter at the moment, working out who's seeded where. Have a look up at his profile if you need to know who's in what bracket, really. And then, as you're saying, so we've gone through. So you expect Sabalenka to whitewash Kudermetova tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
not much to say about that. It just kind of felt like this is the final today, Sabalenka and Andreeva. Maybe if Mirra won, it would have been more interesting. But Sabalenka, yeah, I just don't know how. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on then to what I'm going to call the injury table of Brisbane, the ATP 250 event. So starting off with Yuri Lehechka, who was a setup, and it was 4-all in the second before Grigor Dimitrov decided, I can't do this anymore, I've got a slight injury. Do you have any concerns over Grigor pulling out the tournament this late? Also, certainly this late into the tournament, just before the AO.
Well, I think in that long video that we did with Vansh on like ATP predictions for the year, we were all thinking that like Dimitrov is probably the guy who might start declining this year, just because 2023, 24, such solid, very strong seasons, a lot of like very physical for him too. One of the best of his career, definitely. And it seems like he might be the guy who, out of that like top 10 range this year, might fall out like pretty heavily. So I don't know. I've got no idea what his status will be going into Australia. He probably pulled the plug pretty like preemptively, I would say, that in a good way. Whereas like he didn't want to make it more serious. Of course, he's the Brisbane GOAT, so he loves that event, and once again he performed very well. But yeah, I mean, it's more important for him to go to Australia and try to hit big there. Last year, I guess he lost to, who was it, Nuno Borges in the third round. So
he was, isn't he your favourite, good old Nuno? Or was that John?
I don't know. More John, more myself than John, probably.
I just remember back to your Estoril video where you predicted Nuno to win.
Yeah, I did predict him, and John predicted somebody who played him in the second round, Lorenzo Musetti, who won.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but of course, lost to Christian Garin in the quarters. Anyway, never mind. No one would have predicted Hubert Hurkacz picking up a clay title.
No, I mean it's these wild and wondrous things. I still don't know how he ended up winning Estoril, but we'll gloss over that.
It was a pretty good draw, to be honest. Tired Martinez in the final. It's not like Hurkacz isn't a good player in clay. He's just not quite top 10ish level. But if he gets a draw like this,
if Jan Choinski actually took his chances in the first set, it could have been a completely different story.
Jan Choinski is more Polish than he is British, I would argue. So get away.
He's happy to wave the flag. I'll back the guy. I back Cam Norrie, and he sounds like he's more Kiwi than he is a Brit. But on to So, but Lehechka though, this is a good, actually, to lean on the positives. very good run still. This, I mean, I'm not been able to watch much of his matches because they put him on in the middle of the day, which means it's in the morning, basically at night time, my time. But he tends to show up in Australia. He of course got the title in Adelaide last year. He looks like he's going to defend those points already this week before and actually give himself a few more points to make sure he's a seeded player for the AO. In the final, I mean, do you think the Hečka's fully fit and we've got him back and he's raring to go to take on the tour that we thought he was going to do at the beginning of last year?
I hope so. I mean, it kind of, you're right that like he starts every season well. 2023, of course, Australian Open quarters and also a good run in Doha. And yeah, that's kind of what it seems. Finally, hopefully we're going to see him playing healthy for the fall season because, of course, last year he missed 3 months, but it was three very important months, right? He missed Roland Garros, Wimbledon, the Olympics. So basically 3 huge events. Hopefully nothing like that again. You're right that he's just performing in Australia every single time. And maybe it's going to be better for him to win or make a final this week than last year, of course, when he won Adelaide. And then we know that, especially on the ATP side, the players who tends to go deep like a week before a slam, usually at that major, they're not going to perform that well. And that was, of course, a curse that hit Hečka as well. I think he lost to Mikkelsen in the second round.
No, it's it's always the pre-warning. I think the only player in the last 3 years that's actually buckled that warning has been Casper Ruud, and that's only because he ends up storming the field in Geneva before making.
There's been a few at the French, like Novak won Belgrade, right, just before Roland Garros. Dominic Thiem used to play like Nice and still do well at the French. Interestingly, like at Roland Garros, it seems to work, but in Australia, some of these players, like I don't know. Speaking of Kokinakis, where Ghosty is talking about him now, of course, he won Adelaide and everybody is excited about that Nadal-Kokinakis match, but he loses to Hanfmann there. I don't even know which year I'm talking about. It's probably like 2022 by now, but that's the example that feels very fresh in my mind.
That was the
Camilo
first
last year, right? As well, he won Auckland and then lost to Kovacevic in the opening round. Do you mean Ghosty? I mean, you're just doing this for the pun, right? It's not a serious question, right? But yeah.
And then on to his opponent, and we had the battle of the serve bots. We had Giovanni Mapesci-Berigad playing Riley Opelka. Opelka winning in straight sets, 6-3, 7-6. Bit of a wrist injury scare though, right at the back end of the first set. He was constantly stretching it out and doing all that with his hands as he was going along, and it's his hand that he has his racket on. It's his racket, his forehand hand. Is Riley back? He seems very much like he serves on it, but also his aggression, his ability to be the main aggressor on the rally points seems spot on almost at points. It feels like it's almost unplayable at points. What do you make of Riley and his certainly return in Brisbane?
Yeah, don't try so hard with the cock jokes, Ghosty. Anyway, I think Opelka, obviously, the form that he's showing here is just so much better than in 2024. He came back, he plays, after that long injury, he came back, he plays great in Newport up until the semis, and we're just expecting big things right away. Of course, he's a guy that kind of doesn't really need anything. He can just come back and, the serve is going to be a factor. He doesn't need that much rhythm, you would say. But the level he's shown off the ground this week has been fantastic. What Matthew is saying as well, that was the matchup of these two, serve bots 2.0, where Opelka was regarded as the guy who was a big difference from Isner or Karlovic, right? That at that height, he still moves decently well, and he actually has a ground game compared to these other two. Whereas GMP is kind of the new answer to Opelka, where he is, of course, a few centimeters smaller, which shorter, which helps, but he is much more dynamic, athletic. So it is a challenge for Riley, I think, to play someone like that. Of course, it's going to be a match of low margins and just a few points here or there. I think Riley saved maybe 4 out of 4 break points. But yeah, all week, he's only had one break against him, I think. So it's been great to see him at that level again. I think that, of course, it's a controversial play style. Not everybody is going to enjoy it. I think against Djokovic, he was definitely fantastic to watch. And in a good matchup, yes, he can be. I can enjoy it for sure. And I think, he adds something to the tour. We still, even though tennis is getting even more power oriented, we still don't have, 20 big servers like this on the tour. I'm enjoying the fact that he's back. Hopefully the wrist isn't too severe, because it looks like if he's fit, he's gonna be like one of the guys in the Australian Open main draw who are going to be, the ones you don't want to draw out of the unseeded players.
Yeah. And I will say, Ghost, if you keep on making, like you said, those cock jokes, I will put you into timeout for a period of time. Moving on from there. So who do you expect is going to win? The Serbot versus Lehechka. Who do you think is going to win the final tomorrow?
Interesting thing is that Lehechka is like breaking a lot this event, 27%. I think I was doing some stats work with this today, and basically he's leading the event in terms of breaks. And now he's coming up against Opelka. So I mean, this is gonna be severely tested. Yeah, I mean, it's so tough to predict any matches with guys like Opelka, Isner, Karlovic, even GMP, right? Everything is in that sort of like lottery range of 47 to 53% of total points won. And you can kind of just only guess. Lehechka's return game this week has been fantastic, but I'm not sure it holds up against Opelka. So it's probably just going to be very small margins again.
Tie-break sets?
At least one.
At least one, yeah.
It's a Riley Opelka match. I'm pretty sure this week, well, maybe in the first round, right, against Federico Agustin Gomez, I don't think he had a tiebreak, but since then he's had one every match.
Yeah, that's when you play somebody whose own service game is vulnerable to getting broken. Okay, so now we're going to fly out of Australia quickly in this virtual little run up that we're doing, and we're going to fly over to Auckland to the WTA event there. So just to, we're not going to go through each of the matches. We're just going to go through. I'm just going to ask you to pick out a key result. I'll just go through the results so people will know what's happened. So Clara Towson beat Madison Keys. That was in the first quarter final, and then in the semi-final, Clara Towson was able to back that up by beating Robin Montgomery. And then Naomi Osaka was able to beat Alicia Parks, who earlier in the day beat Caroline Wozniacki, all in straight matches, all those matches there, which sets up a final tomorrow with Clara Towson playing Naomi Osaka. I think the big question is Osaka going to take her first title back since the comeback?
Yeah, there's some fun stats as well, because of course Naomi has 4 slams, but I think only 7 titles overall, right? Like she's not winning events of this sort even when she was at her best. So, but right now, of course, it's very different. It will be really helpful for her. I think we've also been talking about this on the channel the last few days, but with what we've heard recently about Naomi contemplating retirement in the 2024 season, I think it's very important for her to get a big result right now. Is a final already big enough? Probably, I would say. So, it's just a super exciting match. Clara Towson, just an elite prospect as well, just, injured all the time. Because of these injuries, her movement also isn't that good, but the ball striking is fantastic, which kind of also you can compare her to Naomi. I mean, they're both not the fastest, but when they are in the position to hit a ball, they're going to be just, in like demolition mode against most players. So, yeah, super excited to watch it. And Naomi getting to that final is probably very important for her career to continue, considering, some of her recent interviews.
Yeah, because in some of her interviews, she said that she doesn't start winning titles. She may just decide to pack it in, which I have to say is kind of understandable for somebody who has been at the top of the game for as long, winning what she did in the time span that she did. You're not necessarily wanting to be going out constantly second or third round of events when you're expecting to win them. So I could, I can understand the comment she made that she may just decide to pack it in because she doesn't really need it. Her, I know it's an American type saying, but her Hall of Fame resume or her CV is already set. She'll go down as one, certainly a great of the game for what she was able to achieve, certainly on hard courts. But as you say, she's able to pick up a title in Auckland. It may just kickstart this year to potentially make those runs that we know she can do.
And she's also a player who's been kind of vocal about not enjoying some parts of the professional tennis life. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense for her.
And then flying from Auckland up to China, or to specifically Hong Kong, at the Bank of China Open, Hong Kong. We had Yao Mu.
This is a political war waiting to happen when you're saying.
I'm just going with what the title says on my app, which is the Bank of China Hong Kong Tennis Open. But we know that Hong Kong has its own jurisdictions and whatnot, and bits to do with its relationship with China and all sorts. And yeah, all we're saying is it's Hong Kong. We'll only mention Hong Kong. So let's start with the fact that we had Alexandra Muller beat Yao Munar in 3 sets, coming from a set down to be able to be taking that match. I think this is Muller's first final or first main tour final. No, I'm wrong. Where am I
Marrakesh 23.
23.
I think I might be wrong. Was it Kotov or Miller? Kotov played Miller.
It was Kotov. It was Kotov. Yeah, Kotov got to the final. I remember in that.
Oh,
one.
Kotov got to the final. So I guess then it's his first. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's his first. So it's an attempt. We may get our first time tour winner of 2025 in the first week potentially, or we could get somebody who is an established name and who is a bit of a fan favorite. And to be honest, the guy I want to win tomorrow, which is Kei Nishikori, coming in with a wild card. After a match in which he potentially was going to be quite leggy against Cameron Norrie previously.
Alexander Miller did make the Marrakesh final, by the way.
Oh, did he? I got it. Was it Kotov he played in the final?
In the semis. In the semis, yeah. He lost to Carballes Baena.
Okay, so there's a chance he could go for the win, go for a title, which would be big for his career anyway. I mean, I'm not to be offensive, but he has been a bit of a journeyman of the tour in terms of hovering between that 50 and 100 range. A title would be something that he could at least look back on at the end of the year and say that he's achieved something in the sport at the top level, at the top, and because even a 250 title is such a huge achievement for, you think about the thousands of players that play the sport, throughout that, decades and whatnot, and to be one of those select few that has actually won a main tour title, to be able to look back on that is still big anyway. And then say Kei Nishikori 4-3 in the first set. Zhang picked up some sort of illness or bug during the night and just couldn't continue, as saving Kei Nishikori's legs. So we've got Muller versus Nishikori. Who do you think could win that one?
I mean, Miller is just kind of one of these relentless, consistent guys, right? When you were saying journeyman, I was even thinking about his career like before breaking into the top 100, which, I never would have guessed that he was going to be making ATP Tour finals. And for a few years, it just seemed like he was going to stay within that, 150 to 100 range. So, yeah, I think it's a fantastic late breakthrough. Kei, I mean, yeah, we all know that if his body holds up, the talent is still there, the shots are still there. Maybe the fact that he didn't have to play for that long today, even the 7 games he played against Jerry, like Jerry was just smacking the ball because he was feeling sick. So it might be really helpful to Nishikori that he's gonna have that little more advantage of having some rest, especially as Miller has had some very long matches this week too. In fact, he's going for that Bublik record of last year, where Bublik won every single match in Montpellier and took the title from a set down. And now Miller has the same chance, although Miller's record would be even bigger. However, because it's 5 matches, Bublik had a bye in the opening round in Montpellier, so we might have that record somewhat broken, maybe equaled, depending how you look at it. But yeah, I mean, Kei has to be treated as a small favorite. I think just kind of a question of how relentless Miller will be able to be. And whether the physicality for Kei, of course, shows up. Even though he won that third set against Cam 6-2, it wasn't the easiest for him there. He kind of started playing better once he was just like letting it loose. And maybe he'll need something more. I don't think they've played. I don't know where.
Well, on the main tour, at least, they've not played each other. I doubt they played each other at challenger level, just given where they've been in each
Nishikori played Munar, and he was, that was the other opponent that he could have gotten in the final. Munar, he actually had a pretty spectacular fail against last year because he was 6-4 love up, and then suddenly started missing everything. But I don't remember him playing Miller.
No, indeed. Okay, so and I suspect it'll be Kei that will come through that. I think it just have a little bit too much quality at key parts of the match to be able to, for it not to go to him, and that'd be huge for Kei because that would also, because I know he's already now back into the top 100, but this would certainly then take him close to start to make serious inroads towards the world's top 50, which is such a remarkable thing given that there's so many injuries that Kei has had over the certainly last year or two, to be able to then finally get back into some sort of really competitive form, which he is starting to show. And also good for the tournament organisers, catching off from Rublev into the doubles final. So the appearance fees that they spent on those two are not being wasted. They have them all the way through the week, even if didn't do much in the singles for both of those two. And then moving on to now the Challenger Circuit and Canberra, where fresh off his next-gen finals victory, the Brazilian João Fonseca was able to get past Ethan Quinn, the qualifier, but still another young, exciting prospect in Ethan Quinn. 6-4, 6-4. The Canberra Challenger is, of course, seen as the premier challenger tournament before AO. It's the only one set in Australia this week, with the other two taking place in New Caledonia and over in Thailand. What did you make of João picking up this title and the manner of his performance today? And also, he's beaten Jake Fernie and a few other decent names this week as well.
What a monster. I mean, his floor has risen so much. He is really just on serve return. I think there's just so much that he can do right now, even when the game isn't firing on all cylinders. And it's kind of been so far. Like the last 10 matches, I can't really remember a poor performance or even like a poor stretch from him. He's been like absolutely spot on. And I mean, now I think today, even though people were, of course, looking out at whether he's going to win the final or not, and it's good for him that he took it in two. In fact, I think other than the first serve, Ethan had very little to trouble him with. The problem here, like not everybody was just thinking about Australia already, about whether he can qualify and make the main draw, because that's where we are right now. Like he looks like a guy who could win main draw matches in Australia, and now of course it's not going to be super easy. This is a very competitive setting. He knows it already too, having played Wimbledon and having played Roland Garros. Of course, a very tight loss to Alejandro Morocanias at Wimbledon, and another very tight loss to Elliot Spitziri at the US Open in the final round. But I mean, he just looks like he took a massive leap, especially between that Lyon appearance in mid-November to the next gen finals. Like that month, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what he was eating, what he was training, but that was a month where Fonseca's serve, especially, I think, got really much more, heavy. And also, again, the way that he was returning today against Ethan or against Jake. Like this is something that you can't really teach. And this is something that very often decides who is that's sort of like an elite prospect or just a guy who's going to be, on tour, but not really pushing to the top ranks. And I mean, it will be a massive, massive disappointment for the tennis world right now if Fonseca doesn't qualify for the Australian Open. It is what it is. Like everybody wants to see him there because it seems like that's going to be one of these players that I mentioned earlier, like Opelka, who you just don't want to draw in the opening round. You're not going to think, okay, I mean, whoever I get, I'm probably going to be fine, or like, I can handle it. You definitely don't want to see someone who's like on fire like this. And obviously he also makes a pretty big ranking leap right now to like 113, I think. So this was just a spotless week. In fact, it would be very hard to answer the question of who was more dominant this week, he in Canberra or Aslan Karatsev in Nonthaburi.
I mean, as you say, this week his ranking is 145. Next week he goes up to 113, I think you said there. Unfortunately for him, the qualifying rank or seedings will be taken from this week, not next week, because I think we're going to get the qualifying draw, I suspect, actually tomorrow at some stage, if I'm correct, Damien. So he's going to be unseeded in the qualifying, given the fact he's got 145 in the world ranking.
Yeah, but do you think that matters? Like who?
I'm just saying in terms of there's going to be two seeded players in that draw who are going to see in their little 16th section. They're going to see João Fonseca, and then they're going to go, oh, damn, there goes my chances of qualifying for the AO. Or do you think that they could still stand a chance?
I mean, obviously, people will stand a chance. As I said, 10 great matches in a row. He's going to have a stinker somewhere. But just the way that he's playing right now, you kind of think that, well, even if he has it, the floor is high enough that he might be able to push through it. And that's another like super important ability, obviously, in the tennis career, to be able to win while you're not playing your best. I mean, there are some exciting players in the seeded range, but just like, theoretically thinking about it right now, you probably know that whenever an Australian Open qualifying draw comes around, or Grand Slam qualifying draw, I wanted to say, comes around, I'm doing like these like Twitter predictions or whatever. A lot of people are chiming in too. Personally, right now, I can't really imagine a section where I wouldn't pick Fonseca. I'm not saying he's guaranteed to qualify, but he's going to be the favorite in his section, I think, regardless of who lands there. Some of the top seeds, like, I don't know, Kepfer, Bellucci, Fucsovics, they didn't restart the season all that well. You know, he's already beaten some of the other guys too. So maybe there's going to be a rematch. I think that's going to be actually one of the most exciting ones if we get that sort of section where we could get a rematch between him and Stien again.
So, and it's a question John wants us to ponder. How far do you think he'll go with the Australian Open?
I mean, assuming he'll qualify, I don't really know what I would be able to say, given we don't have a draw. So let's start.
Are you confident that he's going to qualify?
I think he's going to be the favorite to qualify, regardless of the draw, really. It's 3 more matches that he has to play at a very high level. Is he going to be too tired? Probably not. This week wasn't too draining. So, yeah, I think he's going to be like a 50% favorite to qualify at least against pretty much any section he can get. And then after that, to me, he's kind of in that maybe Thiago Seyboth spot ahead of the 2023 Roland Garros when basically he beats Medvedev. I'm not saying Joao would beat Medvedev or like even any top 10 player. Of course, the best of 5 format, even though he played in it at the Next Gen Finals, the best of 5 format in the regular sets is a little different. And I think there might be some sort of like a period where he has to also like apply his game better in that. However, yeah, I mean, he gets like a random player from the middle of the draw. He probably beats them. Of course, as an unseeded player, you are guaranteed in the main draw of Australia to get a seeded player in the first 2 rounds. But if he gets someone completely random, like we mentioned, Shevchenko kind of becoming a middle of the road player the last 2 years, right? In terms of the ATP Tour. Fonseca, Shevchenko right now, I mean, Fonseca would be a big favorite. So, yeah, that's kind of my expectation. You know, if he gets a pretty decent draw, I think he is capable of winning a match or 2. He's also, maybe even Menchik is a better example. You know, Menchik last year, he made the final in Canberra. Then he qualified despite getting Brandon Nakashima in the opening round in Australia. He won against Shapovalov in straight sets in the opening round. Of course, Dennis was just coming back, but still. And then if it wasn't for like physical issues, he would have beaten Hurkacz in the second round, I think. So that's kind of where Fonseca is right now. Like you can see what Menchik did last year. I think it's pretty clear that Fonseca might be at an even stronger level. And then maybe it also comes to something like this, you know, just going 5 sets with someone strong in Australia and then losing because he's not quite ready for that format yet. But yeah, that's kind of my expectation. Do Menchik from last year. And Menchik had it really hard because he got Nakashima in the opening round, who was like so in form as well coming into Australian Open qualies.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I for me, like you say, a nice-ish first round would be pretty neat. And then I'd like him to play a big name in that second round. And then we could really have maybe even, on a big court, those two players, whoever they may be, duking it out just to really see Fonseca's level against maybe an established top name, maybe even in the top 10, certainly top 20, would be, in my opinion, at least something pretty neat.
It's the equivalent of Hurkacz Menchik last year, like literally that. That's what I want to see. Him, Fonseca qualifying, getting a winnable first round draw, and then just throw him in against a huge name and see what comes out of it.
See what happens. Cool. Okay, well that pretty much wraps up everything there. I have just seen on my X account that the former Australian Open champion Caroline Wozniacki has withdrawn from the Australian Open. That is something that's popped through on tennis in Tennis Form, I think is the account that popped up through there. Any thoughts on Wozniacki not being there this year?
I think she had a run last year, right? Or like 4th round, maybe she lost 3rd round, maybe she lost to Timofeyeva, unless I'm already thinking of 23. The last years are getting pretty fuzzy, but yeah, I mean, she wasn't going to win the event. I think sometimes people, this is very random, but like people are sometimes freaking out. I saw this tweet from a Polish guy on Twitter today who's like, oh, so this is looking really bad ahead of the Australian Open because you've got Machac with the retirement, Dimitrov with the retirement, Opelka with the wrist issue. And I'm like, so, I mean, it's kind of sad if you look at it kind of from like a personal level, but there are going to be like 128 players in each draw at the Australian Open, and only about 10-15 can win it. And some players aren't really that important for like the entire event. I don't think Caroline is, but she's done well, and it in the past. Of course, she obviously won it in 2018 as well. So it's a pretty big story, but at this point, it doesn't seem like she would be able to challenge for the title or even for like a semi-final run.
No, it's as you say. I mean, she made, of course, on the jacket that we saw at the US Open, she actually has the picture of the Australian Open Daphne trophy on it, which I know a lot of people found quite amusing at the time. But no, it's I mean, we haven't really seen her since the US Open, and this still continues along where it's it's a shame that she won't be there because she's a bit of certainly a fan favorite whenever she's on, and you've got a medium-sized show court and you put her on there, she's going to attract a crowd. But certainly, it's I hope to see Caroline certainly later on in the year, if entirely possible. It's always good to see certainly greats and former champions of the game playing certainly at the competitive level. So that then wraps up everything there. Reminder, tomorrow is finals day, so 2 finals in Brisbane starting at 6:30 UK time. There is the 6:30 UK is also the start time of the United Cup, starting with the Swiatek versus Gauff, followed by Fritz versus Hurkacz, and then the mixed doubles afterwards. 4 p.m. in the UK, 4 a.m. in the UK is a very early start if you want to see Naomi Osaka. I'll give in UK time because I know what it is for me, but I'm sure in Australia you can convert it to your own currency. And then in Hong Kong, it's an 8 o'clock start or 8:30 start for the final there. Thanks for everyone who's joined. Thanks, Damien, for popping along.
Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the action. Hopefully, a bit more sleep today because, as you said, like for me, it's gonna be the action is basically gonna be starting around 5 a.m. with Osaka Tauson. If I miss that, I'm not gonna cry about it. I definitely want to be up for the Poland USA final, and hopefully, this is just gonna be a bit of a cleaner night then, because the Australian Open qualifying is coming up, and that is going to require me to stay up for like 4 nights in a row. So today is a very important rest day for me.
It is. Not 6:30 tomorrow is for me is when I'm going to be up. You get an extra hour because you're an hour in front.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for you, not for me. But as you say, we'll have a full proper ATP weekly and WTA weekly taking place tomorrow. That will wrap up all the key stories from the events taking place this week. It's always weird this week because it's a very hectic week and it's the start of the season. But we'll have everything wrapped up there. And all that's left to say is we'll enjoy the tennis and we roll on to the Australian Open as it continues getting ever closer, the first slam of the year.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.